The amphitheater buzzed with 1,000 different frequencies of excitement. Delegates from across the spiral arm had gathered for what everyone considered the social event of the cycle, the release of the updated Galactic Hunter Registry. I adjusted my sensory stalks and tried to find a decent viewing angle. The name's Krill, by the way, Junior Archiver for the Federated Census Bureau, which sounds way more impressive than it actually is. Mostly I file reports and try not to get stepped on by species with better spatial awareness. The massive holographic display flickered to life above the central platform, and the crowd went absolutely silent. Well, as silent as 500 species can get. The VRYNN delegation still clicked nervously, and someone's translator was making this awful grinding sound. But you get the idea. Welcome, esteemed guests. The announcer was a Palaxian, all 7 feet of crystallized smugness. Today we honor the apex predators, the elite hunters, the very pinnacle of survival evolution across our great confederation. Someone in the back started what I assume was applause. It sounded like rocks in a tumbler. The first entry appeared, the Kresh from Iron 4. Massive things, built like walking fortresses with teeth that could punch through starship hulls. Their planet had a gravity rating of 3.2 standard, an atmosphere that could dissolve most metals, and an ecosystem that made survival of the fittest look like a gentle suggestion. Impressive. Next came the Slick Swarmus. Terrifying in their own right. Pack hunters with neural linking and venom that could drop a Kresh in under 10 seconds. Their world, Nest Prime, boasted predators at every level of the food chain, including the ocean, the sky, and apparently even the soil itself. The list continued. Each entry brought gasps and appreciative murmurs. The Thorn Leviathans from Spike Valley. The Phase Stalkers of Dimensional Rift 7. The Burning Maws of Cinder Station. Every single one a nightmare wrapped in evolutionary advantages and millions of years of killing things for breakfast. Then, about 40 entries in, something unexpected happened. A voice cut through the crowd. Not loud, not aggressive, just casual. Almost bored, actually. Excuse me? Sorry, but where exactly is Earth on this list? Every sensory organ in that amphitheater turned toward the source. Standing near the middle tier was a human. Average height for their species, wearing some kind of simple fabric covering, holding what appeared to be a datapad. The human looked around with an expression I'd learned to recognize during my brief stint cataloging Terran embassy documentation. Polite confusion mixed with genuine curiosity. The Palaxian announcer's facial plates shifted through several colors. Confusion? Irritation? Hard to tell with their species. Earth? The colony world? I'm afraid we only list apex species from recognized hunting worlds, not agricultural settlements. Oh boy, I knew where this was going. I'd read the preliminary reports on human homeworld classification. This was about to get interesting. The human smiled. Humans do that when they're amused, annoyed, or about to say something that'll make you regret your life choices. Sometimes all 3. Agricultural settlement? No, I think there's been some kind of administrative error. Earth's classified as a Class 12 Deathworld. Has been for about 3 standard years now, ever since the Federation survey team actually bothered to look past the cities. The crowd erupted into a mixture of laughter and dismissive chittering. A Class 12? Those were reserved for planets where simply existing counted as an extreme sport, where the weather had personal vendettas and the wildlife had evolved specifically to make extinction a spectator event. The Kresh delegate, all 4 tons of armored superiority, let out what their species considered a chuckle. It sounded like an avalanche with anger management issues. A death world? Your species builds structures of glass and metal. You domesticate animals for companionship. What possible threat could your world pose to qualify for such a rating? The human smile widened. Not the friendly kind. The kind that makes your survival instincts start screaming in languages you didn't know existed. Well, since you asked, let me tell you about Australia. I pulled out my own datapad and started recording. Something told me this was going to be one for the archives. The really interesting archives. The ones that make you question every assumption you've ever had about what constitutes a safe species. The human looked around the amphitheater, making eye contact with delegates from a dozen worlds, each one absolutely certain of their species' superiority in the natural order. But first, the human continued. Let's talk about what my planet considers breakfast. Oh, this was definitely going in the archives. The Palaxian announcer attempted to regain control of the situation, which was adorable really, considering he had absolutely no idea what was coming. I'd seen this pattern before in human interactions. They get this look, this very specific expression that says, "Buckle up," because reality is about to get weird. The human, who'd introduced himself as Marcus Webb during the initial registration, pulled up his datapad and projected a series of images into the shared holographic space. The first image showed a relatively peaceful-looking landscape. Blue sky, some vegetation, seemed pleasant enough. This is Australia. One continent on Earth. Not even the biggest one, mind you. Just one chunk of land where evolution apparently got drunk and decided to weaponize literally everything. A creature appeared on the display. 8 legs, covered in hair, with fangs that looked disproportionately large for its body size. Sydney funnel web spider. Its venom can kill a human in 15 minutes. Aggressive, territorial, and its fangs can bite through fingernails. We find these in our gardens. Sometimes in our shoes. Occasionally in our houses, just hanging out like they pay rent. I noticed several delegates leaning forward now, their initial dismissiveness shifting to something resembling attention. The slick swarmer representative tilted her head in what I recognized as professional interest. Marcus continued, clearly enjoying himself now. But that's small stuff. Let's talk about the ocean, because apparently the land wasn't dangerous enough. Box jellyfish. Nearly invisible in water, tentacles up to 3 meters long, venom potent enough to kill a human in under 5 minutes. Causes pain so intense that victims have been known to go into shock and drown before the venom even finishes the job. The hologram shifted to show a translucent, cube-shaped creature drifting through water. It looked delicate, almost beautiful. The Thorn Leviathan delegate made a sound that his translator rendered as inadequate threat profile. Marcus laughed. Humans do this thing where they laugh harder when they're about to prove someone catastrophically wrong. Oh, you think that's inadequate? Let me introduce you to the saltwater crocodile. 6 meters long, weighs over a ton, bite force of 16,000 newtons. They're ambush predators that can hold their breath for hours, remain perfectly still until prey gets close, then accelerate from 0 to lethal in about half a second. They've been around for 94 million years because nothing's managed to kill them off. They're basically living fossils with anger issues. The image showed a massive reptilian creature, armored in scales, with jaws that looked like they could bite through starship plating. The Kresh delegate shifted uncomfortably. I noted that with considerable satisfaction. And these animals, Marcus emphasized, his voice taking on an edge that made my survival instincts wake up and pay attention. These are just from one continent. We haven't even discussed Africa yet, where we evolved. You know, the place where our ancestors had to develop persistence hunting because everything else was bigger, stronger, faster, and had better weapons than we did. The Palaxian announcer tried to interrupt. Surely you're exaggerating for dramatic effect. These creatures sound formidable, yes, but they're isolated examples. Every world has dangerous fauna. Marcus turned to face him directly, and I swear the temperature in the amphitheater dropped a few degrees. Isolated examples? Buddy, we had to invent entire fields of medicine just to deal with the things trying to kill us on a daily basis. Anti-venom research is a cornerstone of our pharmaceutical industry. We have public awareness campaigns about which spiders, snakes, jellyfish, octopi, fish, plants, and insects will kill you versus which ones will just make you wish you were dead. He pulled up another image. A small, colorful octopus, barely larger than a human hand. Blue-ringed octopus. Carries enough venom to kill 26 adult humans. There's no anti-venom. It causes complete paralysis while you remain fully conscious. You suffocate while being entirely aware of what's happening. And it's the size of a golf ball. The crowd had gone completely silent now. Even the VRYNN had stopped their nervous clicking. But here's my absolute favorite part, Marcus said, his smile returning to that dangerous configuration that made me glad I was just an archivist. None of these are the apex predators on Earth. You want to know what sits at the top of Earth's food chain? What evolved to survive in an environment where literally everything is trying to kill everything else? He paused for dramatic effect, and I had to admit, the human had excellent timing. Humans. We do. We climbed to the top of a Class 12 Deathworld food chain with nothing but endurance, opposable thumbs, and the ability to throw rocks really accurately. Then we got bored and invented agriculture, civilization, and space travel just to see what else was out there. The Kresh delegate spoke up, his voice considerably less confident than before. But your species lacks natural weapons. No claws, no venom, no armored hide. Marcus nodded agreeably. Exactly. We did it anyway. The amphitheater had transformed from a celebration of apex predators into something that felt uncomfortably like a biology lecture where everyone suddenly realized they'd been studying the wrong material. I watched delegates from a dozen worlds quietly accessing their own datapads, probably cross-referencing human claims with Federation databases. The looks on their faces, or facial equivalents, suggested they were finding exactly what they didn't want to find. At a VRYNN delegate stood up, her translator crackling slightly. You claim your species reached apex status through endurance? That seems, forgive me, unlikely. Endurance is a prey trait. Predators rely on speed, strength, ambush tactics. Marcus's expression shifted into something I'd seen before in human educational videos. Patient, but with an undercurrent of, oh, you sweet summer child. Right. So here's the thing about human endurance hunting. We didn't just outlast our prey because we were stubborn, though that helped. We literally evolved to run animals to death. Humans can regulate body temperature through sweating, which most mammals can't do efficiently. We have spring-loaded tendons in our legs that make distance running incredibly energy efficient. Our respiratory system decouples from our stride, meaning we can breathe independently of our movement. He pulled up a video showing a human running across what looked like an arid landscape, following something that resembled a four-legged herbivore. This is a persistence hunt demonstration. That animal is a kudu, faster than any human, stronger than any human, has better senses than any human. But here's the trick. We don't need to be faster. We just need to be relentless. The video continued. The human maintained a steady pace while the kudu would sprint ahead, stop to rest, sprint again. After what the timestamp indicated was nearly 4 hours, the animal simply collapsed from heat exhaustion while the human was still jogging. We chased our food until it physically couldn't run anymore, then walked up and killed it while it lay there too exhausted to fight back. That's not a prey trait. That's nightmare fuel. The slick swarmer representative made a gesture that her translator interpreted as grudging respect. This is effective, yes, but surely against a prepared opponent, against actual predators, this tactic fails? Marcus laughed again, and I was really starting to associate that sound with impending discomfort for everyone involved. Oh, you want to talk about humans versus predators? Let me tell you about the Tsevo lions. 2 male lions in Kenya, Earth, 1898. They killed and ate between 35 and 135 humans over 9 months. Stopped railway construction. Created absolute terror across the region. He paused, looking around the amphitheater. Know what happened to them? A single human tracked them down and shot both of them. Then we put their bodies in a museum so we could stare at them forever and remind ourselves what we'd overcome. We're so petty that we turned the things that ate us into tourist attractions. The Kresh delegate shifted his massive bulk, clearly uncomfortable now. Your weapons technology creates an unfair advantage. Without your tools, without your firearms, you would be helpless. I actually groaned out loud at that one. I'd read enough human history to know where this was headed. Marcus's smile could have cut through hull plating. Tools? You think tools are cheating? Buddy, tool use is what separates humans from every other species on our planet. It's our natural weapon. A human with a sharpened stick is more dangerous than most predators with claws and fangs, because we understand leverage, force multiplication, and tactical application. He pulled up historical images, crude weapons made from stone and wood. Our ancestors killed creatures 3 times their size with pointed rocks tied to sticks. We hunted mammoths into extinction using coordinated pack tactics and weapons we made from the bones of previous kills. We didn't just survive our death world. We conquered it so thoroughly that now we have to actively work to keep other species from going extinct because we're too good at killing things. The Palaxian announcer, who'd been silent for several minutes, finally found his voice. This is all very impressive historical context, but the registry focuses on current biological capabilities. Modern humans are civilized, domesticated. You've lost your edge. Oh no. Oh, that was a mistake. I actually felt bad for the Palaxian. Marcus turned slowly, and his expression had shifted into something colder. Professional. Domesticated? We've been in space for less than 200 years. We've had civilization for maybe 10,000 years. We've been persistence predators for 2 million years. You think 10,000 years of cities erased 2 million years of evolution? We still have the same basic biology as the humans who ran down prey animals in the African savanna. The same adrenaline response, the same endurance capacity, the same pattern recognition that let us track wounded animals for days. He pulled up a recent news article from the Federation database. 3 months ago, a human cargo hauler crashed on VLEX 6. Hostile environment. Indigenous predators. Rescue team estimated arrival at 72 hours. The human, a logistics coordinator named Patricia Vinn, survived for 96 hours by constructing shelter from ship debris, creating weapons from salvage materials, and killing 2 separate predators that attacked her. When rescue arrived, they found her sitting outside her shelter, roasting meat from one of the predators over a fire sheet made by hand. The crowd had gone completely still. I was frantically taking notes, knowing this entire incident was going to require a complete revision of several Federation safety protocols. She wasn't military, wasn't a survival specialist, just a regular human who needed to survive, so she did. Because that's what we do. That's what we've always done. Marcus looked directly at the display showing the hunter registry, still frozen on some apex predator from a high-gravity world. So I'll ask again, where exactly is Earth on this list? The silence in the amphitheater had weight to it now, like atmospheric pressure before a storm. I'd been to hundreds of Federation gatherings, and I'd never experienced anything quite like this. Delegates who'd arrived ready to celebrate their species' superiority were now reconsidering fundamental assumptions about the nature of predation itself. The Palaxian announcer's plates had shifted to a color I didn't have reference for in my database. Probably something between embarrassment and existential crisis. He looked down at his console, then back up at Marcus, then back at the console like it might suddenly offer him an escape route. The registry classification is based on standardized metrics: bite force, claw length, venom potency, natural armor ratings, sensory capabilities. Marcus nodded slowly. Right. Metrics designed by species who assumed that being dangerous meant having big teeth. You're measuring hardware when you should be measuring software. A delegate from the back, a Quellan if I identified the breathing pattern correctly, spoke up. Explain this software concept. What advantage does cognition provide against physical superiority? Everything, Marcus said simply. A Kresh can bite through Starship hull, sure. Impressive. But a human can convince the Kresh that biting the hull is a bad idea, or better yet, convince the Kresh to bite someone else's hull instead. We don't just hunt prey, we hunt concepts. We identify patterns, predict behavior, and exploit weaknesses that our targets didn't even know they had. He pulled up another image, this one showing a simple trap design. Rope, tension, a trigger mechanism. This is a snare. Humans invented thousands of variations of traps because we realized something fundamental. Why chase your food when you can make your food come to you and kill itself? We turned the environment itself into a weapon. We made the world hunt for us. The slick swarmer representative made a chittering sound that her translator struggled with before settling on reluctant acknowledgement. She stood, her multiple limbs moving in what I recognized as a gesture of professional curiosity. Your species presents an interesting case study. However, individual survival incidents do not establish apex status. What is your species' success rate in hostile environment scenarios compared to established hunter species? Marcus pulled up a Federation database query, and I watched the numbers populate in real time. Several delegates leaned forward, their posture shifting from skeptical to alarmed as the statistics materialized. Human survival rate in unplanned hostile environment encounters, 78%. Next highest species, Kresh at 42%. Humans have been encountered on 63 different classified death worlds across Federation space over the past decade. We've not only survived, we've established settlements on 12 of them. Not research outposts. Actual communities. People chose to live there. The Kresh delegate stood now, his massive frame somehow seeming less intimidating than it had an hour ago. This is statistically improbable. Our species requires significant technological support to survive extended periods on high classification worlds. You claim humans do this casually? We do it for fun sometimes, Marcus said, and I could hear the grin in his voice even though I was focused on my notes. We call it camping. We deliberately go into dangerous environments with minimal supplies just to see if we still can. It's a recreational activity. Parents take their children into the wilderness to teach them survival skills as a bonding experience. He pulled up images of humans in various hostile environments. Frozen wastelands, dense jungles, arid deserts, all of them looking uncomfortable but alive. We have television shows where we watch other humans survive in terrible conditions. We make entertainment out of the skills that kept our ancestors alive. And here's the really fun part. We're not even the most dangerous thing humans have learned to survive. The Palaxian announcer looked like he desperately wanted this presentation to end, but couldn't figure out how to stop it without admitting complete institutional failure. What could possibly be more dangerous than the wildlife you've described? Marcus's expression went flat, serious in a way that made every translator in the room adjust its threat assessment parameters. Other humans. Our species' greatest predator has always been itself. We've survived wars, genocides, pandemics, environmental collapses, and our own worst impulses for our entire history. The same coordination that let us hunt mammoths to extinction let us build societies. The same persistence that let us run down prey let us outlast every catastrophe we've encountered. The same tool used that gave us spears gave us medicine, agriculture, and eventually star travel. He looked around the amphitheater, making eye contact with as many delegates as possible. You want to know why Earth isn't on your registry? Because you're measuring the wrong things. You're looking for claws and fangs when you should be looking for adaptability, intelligence, and the sheer stubborn refusal to die that kept humans alive on a planet that spent millions of years trying to kill us. The Palaxian announcer finally found his voice, though it sounded strained. The Registry Committee will review Earth's classification and consider appropriate placement in next cycle's publication. Marcus smiled, the friendly version this time. Appreciate that. Oh, and one more thing for your records. He pulled up a final image. It showed a plaque, mounted on a small mechanical device sitting on a dusty, reddish landscape. Text in human languages covered its surface. That's the Voyager Golden Record. We launched it into space in 1977, before we even knew you all existed. It contains information about Earth, about humans, about our location in the galaxy. Music, images, greetings in 55 languages. We literally sent an invitation into the void saying, "Here we are, come find us," before we had any idea what was out there or whether it was friendly. The implications of that hit the crowd like a physical force. Several delegates made sounds that their translators rendered as variations of disbelief and horror. We advertised our location to a potentially hostile universe because we were curious what might answer. That's not apex predator behavior. That's something way more concerning. That's a species that looked at infinite unknown danger and said, "Yeah, let's poke it and see what happens." Marcus closed his datapad and looked up at the Frozen Hunter Registry display one last time. So when you update that list, maybe add a note next to Earth's entry. Something like Deathworld survivors, persistence predators, tool users, and galactically certified crazy enough to invite trouble just to see what shows up. He gave a casual wave and headed toward the exit, leaving behind an amphitheater full of species who'd just realized that the friendly humans they'd been dismissing as harmless might be the most terrifying thing in the Federation. That I saved my notes and marked the file with a priority flag. This was definitely going to require some updated training materials, and maybe a revision of what we considered safe.